On the afternoon of March 15th, a sudden and intense downpour hit Shenzhen. In videos online, it looked like daytime turned into night in just 1 minute. The sky was covered in thick dark clouds, like something out of a sci-fi movie. Then the strong winds came. Trash, leaves, and debris started flying everywhere.
Look, this is the biggest typhoon of 2025. Unbelievable. Why is that person still up there? What's going on in Shenzhen? This is not normal. It's like evil wind.
People out on the streets were caught completely off guard. The scene quickly turned chaotic. Some rushed to find shelter. Others hurried to their destinations. Soon, the streets were flooded. Footage from the coast showed the storm closing in. A few boats were still bobbing on the water under the dark clouds. A lot of people online said the weather in Shenzhen changed in the blink of an eye. It was sunny in the morning, and by afternoon it was pouring. They said the weather forecast is never reliable.
Today is Saturday, March 15th, 2025. It's just after 3 p.m. I worked the early shift, so I got off early. But now, it's raining so hard outside. Even with an umbrella, there's not much you could do. By the time I get home, I'll be soaked. Who knew it was going to rain like this today? And I still have to catch the bus. Everyone's stuck here, with or without umbrellas. The rain is just too heavy.
Another resident said their clothes got blown off the balcony. I didn't close the windows. I had 5 pieces of clothing out, and now I only have 2 left. One guy was still filming from his balcony in the middle of the storm. People praised him for his dedication, even though it was risky. Ironically, he ended up becoming part of the story himself. At one wedding, guests had just arrived, and the food hadn't even been served yet when the wind came and wrecked the entire setup. The place was in total disarray. You can imagine the bride was on the verge of tears. Another wedding was also hit hard. Guests were just getting ready to enjoy the banquet when the storms hit. The food hadn't come yet, so luckily no dishes were ruined, and people were just trying to stay positive. One man joked,
Here to drink today. Such strong wind and rain. Must be good feng shui.
But one banquet got hit even worse. People were in the middle of eating when rain and wind came crashing down. The tent almost got blown away. Everyone had to grab it together to keep it from flying off. The tables were a mess, children were crying, and the whole scene was pure chaos. No one finished their food, and they ended up soaking wet. The storm also damaged a garment factory in Guangdong. Inside, the workshop was a total mess, with machines and fabrics scattered all over the floor. An Audi repair shop in Shenzhen was also hit by the storm. Surveillance footage from inside the shop shows that no one was prepared when the wind hit. Everyone was still working as usual when the metal rolling door started shaking violently. Then the wind actually blew it open from the bottom, showing just how strong the wind was. The shop owner later posted the video and said that in the past 10 years of typhoons, nothing like this had ever happened. But under the video, most people were criticizing the staff for being careless. One person commented, "Shouldn't they have lowered the lifted cars and closed the hoods and doors at a time like that?" Instead, when things got dangerous, the workers either stood around watching or took out their phones to film. Looks like when the boss isn't around, no one cares because it's not their business. Elsewhere, a car salesperson was out on a test drive when the storm suddenly hit. In just moments, the whole street went dark. Debris was flying everywhere, and even large trees were knocked over. Many people didn't dare keep driving. This was Shenzhen's first major rainstorm of the year, and it came out of nowhere. A lot of people weren't ready at all. Some factories had equipment worth hundreds of thousands that ended up soaked in water. One woman in a video said, "Look, everything's flooded. We're in the lowest area. So much equipment is underwater, and more water keeps coming in. All we can do is wait for the rain to stop. What else can we do?" In Luohu, one tenant posted a video showing water rushing like a river through the stairwell of a rental building. Turns out the landlord forgot to close the skylight. People online joked, saying, "The landlord's clever, opened the skylight to wash the stairs." Another person replied, "Great idea, saves on cleaning costs and even saves on the water bill." But for the people living there, it was no joke. They now have to be ready to wear rain boots just to go downstairs. In the Guangyayuan residential area in Bantian, the flooding was serious. One person said, "It was fine when I got here, but now I can't go back." In the same neighborhood, a large tree was ripped out by its roots and crashed down on a parked car. Workers were seen cleaning up the fallen branches. Even the decorative trees along the roadside didn't escape. One was blown over completely by the strong wind. In front of Shenzhen's Wanda Plaza, Delta, temporary clothing stalls were also destroyed. The wind tore off the tent roofs, and clothing were scattered everywhere. The vendors suffered major losses. Meanwhile, a youth soccer training session was underway in Shenzhen. When the downpour started, all they could do was keep playing in the rain. At Shenzhen Bao'an International Airport, the storm caused numerous flight delays. One person posted, "I was going from Huizhou to Luohu in Shenzhen. Everything was fine when I left, but just as I was about to arrive, the rain hit so hard I couldn't even see the road. The traffic was completely jammed. I was mentally falling apart." One content creator said he was on the way from Shenzhen to Zhuhai when the storm hit. He described it as terrifying. Another person wasn't so lucky. He was driving on the Shenzhen-Zhongshan Bridge when the storm came. The bridge was shaking non-stop, and the rain was so heavy you could barely see anything. Tourists out enjoying the view got caught too. One moment it was sunny, the next everyone was rushing to find shelter. The entrances to the subway stations were packed. At Meisha Peak in Shenzhen, visitors scrambled to escape the rain. People huddled together, and the scene became chaotic. According to the Shenzhen Evening News, on the afternoon of March 15th, the sudden storm trapped 14 tourists in the Jingui mountain area of Pingshan district, including a 3-year-old child who showed signs of hypothermia and urgently needed help. Around 4 p.m., the local police received an emergency call and quickly launched a rescue operation. A joint team was formed with local officials, and after nearly an hour of tough searching, they found all 14 people. Everyone made it safely down the mountain, and no one was hurt. On March 15th, Shenzhen issued its first citywide yellow alert for thunderstorms, strong winds, and heavy rains this year. Nanshan, Fujian, Bao'an, Guangming, Longhua, the Pearl River Estuary, and Shenzhen Bay received orange alerts for strong winds and storms. The warning mentioned intense thunderstorm activity and wind gusts up to level 10. Shenzhen rainstorm quickly became a trending topic online, with many people sharing videos of the extreme weather. After the storm, scenes of destruction were everywhere. Large trees had been uprooted, branches littered the streets, and cleanup crews were hard at work. Many cars were damaged by fallen trees. Reports of injuries came in, and ambulances arrived at the scene to treat the wounded. The atmosphere was tense and hectic. According to Chinese media, this extreme weather has been affecting Guangdong province. From March 14th to 15th, heavy rainfall hit many areas, including Shaoguan, Qingyuan, and the northern part of Zhaoqing. In Shakou Town, Yingda City, Qingyuan, the highest rainfall was reported at 121.4 millimeters. By noon on March 15th, weather authorities reported 38 active yellow alerts for thunderstorms and strong wind, and 18 alerts for heavy rain across the province. In Zhuhai, Guangdong, the sky suddenly turned dark in 1 second. A video taken on March 15th around 2 p.m. shows strong winds and heavy rain sweeping in without warning. The weather change was so extreme it startled many people. Visibility outside dropped to less than 50 meters. Thankfully, the storm only lasted under 10 minutes. Any longer, and the damage would have been much worse. A surveillance video from a guest house in Zhongshan shows people trying desperately to hold the front door shut as the wind howled outside. Despite their efforts, they couldn't keep it closed. Everyone panicked, and the place quickly descended into chaos. In Tanshui Town, Yangjiang, heavy winds and rain knocked over parked motorcycles. The on-screen caption reads, March 15th, Yangjiang, Guangdong. One family in Yangjiang was holding a wedding when their temporary banquet tent began shaking violently in the wind. Eventually, it collapsed. Guests rushed in to pack up their food and leave, while some stormed to hold onto the tent in a last-ditch effort to save it. One person joked online, with a wedding this dramatic, the newlyweds are about to have an exciting life ahead and a bright future. Another wedding in Yangjiang met a similar fate. After just a few minutes of violent rain and wind, the once lively venue was left in shambles. On the morning of March 15th, dark clouds loomed over the Pearl River Delta and Yangjiang areas. Powerful storm swept across multiple cities. Shrimp farms, nurseries, and small greenhouse areas were hit hard. The roofs and covers were ripped apart by the wind, and rainwater flooded the shrimp ponds, turning the farms into a mess almost instantly. Industry insiders reported that the storm caused major direct losses. Structures were destroyed, pond walls were damaged. The indirect losses could be even worse. Sudden environmental changes might lead to water pollution and eventually disease outbreaks among the shrimp. A local person in Domen shared a video showing how unprepared shrimp farmers were. In some areas, 70% of the winter greenhouses were destroyed. One shrimp farmer said that around 3 p.m. on the 15th, a tornado accompanied by heavy rain hit Zhuhai. The area lost power for several hours. His shrimp were washed up onto the shore, and one of his 5 ponds was completely destroyed. If the cold weather continues, he fears the shrimp might die. Many of his friends and clients also suffered damage to their winter facilities. He owns 6.5 acres of shrimp ponds, all insured, but he's unsure whether the insurance company will cover the losses this time. He also posted a video to share advice on how others can respond to disasters like this.
今天是3月16号. A man posted a video on March 16th, explaining that due to the extreme weather on the 15th, many shrimp and fish farmers in Zhongshan, Jiangmen, and Zuihai were damaged. He said the sudden storm caused losses for many farmers. The biggest risks to the fish and shrimp are the sharp drop in oxygen levels and water temperature. These changes can cause serious stress to the animals. Some customers even reported shrimp floating to the surface and molting in large numbers. To reduce losses, he recommended selling the shrimp and fish as soon as possible. If the damage wasn't too bad, farmers could add nutrients to the water and disinfect the ponds thoroughly.
As he mentioned, on March 16th, farmers across the Pearl River Delta were lining up to sell their shrimp. Prices dropped quickly. Originally, shrimp prices had been rising due to shortages across the country, and many farmers were holding back from selling, waiting for higher prices. But this disaster forced them to sell early. Industry insiders said that the storm damaged thousands of acres of shrimp farms, causing losses in the tens of millions of yuan. Farmers were left devastated. On top of the heavy rain, some areas in Guangdong also saw strong thunderstorms with wind gusts between levels 8 and 10, and even hail. In northern Guangdong and the northern part of the Pearl River Delta, temperatures dropped by 3 to 6 degrees Celsius. On the 15th, residents in Yangchun said they experienced hail the size of small stones. The hail hit the ground with a loud crackling sound, accompanied by thunder. Fruit vendors selling outdoors were especially unlucky. The sky was clear just moments before, and then hail started falling out of nowhere. They had no time to pack up. Fruits were smashed by the hail, and the financial loss was heavy. In Guangzhou, large clouds loomed overhead, followed by strong rainfall. At 12:26 p.m. on the 15th, the city activated a Level 4 emergency response for thunderstorms and high winds. The Guangdong Meteorological Bureau forecasted that between the 15th and the 16th, sea winds could reach Level 7 with gusts up to Level 9. Inland areas would see gusts between Levels 5 and 8, and average daily temperatures would drop by 6 to 9 degrees. The weather was turning cold fast. In nearby Hong Kong, the storm also caused serious danger. A construction worker doing high-altitude work outdoors was stuck in a hanging basket that shook violently in the wind. The scene was nerve-wracking. Many viewers feared for his safety and criticized the construction company for poor safety management, allowing workers to be in such risky conditions during extreme weather. Luckily, when the basket swung close to a window, the worker managed to climb out and escape, bringing a huge sense of relief to anyone watching.
A man in another video pointed out how extreme weather and natural disasters are becoming more frequent. Judging by the wind in the footage, he estimated the speed was well above level 10.
The March 15th storm in Guangdong was second only to a tornado in terms of power. Many people were asking, how could a storm this strong happen so early in the year? According to Chinese storm watchers, the answer lies in what happened on the morning of the 15th. A cluster of strong storm clouds began forming between Nanning and Yulin in Guangxi. As the system moved eastward, it grew stronger and swept through the coastal areas of Guangdong. Cities like Maoming and Yangjiang were the first to get hit by hail. Then the system reached the Pearl River Delta and evolved into a bow echo, a storm pattern with a greater destructive power. Guangdong had also experienced nearly a week of warming and high humidity before this. The atmosphere was filled with unstable energy. Shenzhen, for example, had reached 28.5 degrees Celsius with sunlight heating the ground. When cold air rushed in, it was like pouring cold water onto a pot of hot oil, triggering violent convection. Turbulent winds at high altitudes further strengthened the storm. Without any mountains to block it, the storm intensified as it entered the Pearl River Delta. This led to powerful winds and downpours in Jiangmen, Zhuhai, Shenzhen, Hong Kong, and Shanwei. In Bao'an, Shenzhen, 30-minute rainfall reached 66 millimeters, while gusts in Huizhou's coastal areas hit 33.3 meters per second. This was the Greater Bay Area's first major weather disaster of 2025, marking the start of a strong convection season. People are advised to stay alert and be prepared. On March 16th, Guangxi was also hit. In Qingzhou, runners participating in a marathon continued racing despite the heavy rain and strong winds. In Ganzhou, Jiangxi, the storm caused major damage too. A metal roof built by a local farmer was torn off by a strong wind, flooding the inside of the house and leaving the yard in disarray. The violent storm on March 15th swept across Guangdong unusually early in the year. Many fear this is a sign that more extreme weather could follow. At the same time, northern China was being hit by snowstorms. Farmers there saw their crops destroyed by snow and ice. This wave of extreme weather from south to north feels like an invisible storm hanging over the country, mirroring the uncertainty within the Chinese Communist Party. With China's economy continuing to slow and public frustration quietly growing, all of these elements could lead to an eruption at any time. For the CCP, 2025 is shaping up to be a year of turbulence, with hidden crises lurking everywhere.